and join. And I see people are joining us, so welcome those that are showing up on this chilly February night. And we'll give people some time to stop in. All right, so let's do snow totals, because I know I have like about, well, the other day, 8 inches, right? Rich, Sussex County, you got the foot,
Yeah,
right?
I'm in the 10 range.
10.
Elmer, a president of the Forestry Association, 12 range. But I talked to some people out on Long Island who were in the 8 range. So it was a really broad snowfall, difficult to manage, very hard, very wet, dense material.
Yeah, great for snowmen. I'm just going to say that. Like down the road, they always do a snowman whenever there's a snow, and there's 2 of them out there actually. So really good. How about you, Brian? What kind of snowfall?
Yeah, I'm in Sussex County as well, so we got almost a foot. I didn't really measure exactly, but it was heavy and wet, that's for sure.
Heavy and wet, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Guess what? We get to do it again on Saturday. At least I think the South is getting more this time, a little bit of snowfall on Saturday. So that should be.
Somebody just said in the chat there at 12.25.
Oh yeah, that's got to be Sussex County.
Oh, I guess that's elevation, maybe just a bit lower than Elmer. So they know where Elmer is.
Okay. Fantastic. So it's all good. Before you know it, we're going to be complaining that it's hot out, right? And complaining that there's all ticks all over, right? That's why we're here tonight. So it's good stuff. Okay, I want to be respectful of people's time, so people can continue to join, but I think we're going to get started. So welcome again, everybody, to this month's Backyard Forestry in 90 Minutes online. I'm Lori Jensen. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Forestry Association, and super excited to have you here. As always, if you joined us before, you know the deal, but I'll just real quick, feel free to stop by and say hello in the chat. And if you have questions for our presenter at any time, when you think of it, just pop it over in the Q&A, and Brian and I and Rich will go through them during the presentation or following his presentation. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So I'm sorry, but I had to put this on the screen because why not? So I'm trying to hopefully everybody's getting all kinds of itchy and, thinking about those ticks in the woods, and we're going to make sure that we figure that out now before it gets to be spring. So, all right, that's the last one, I promise. So anyhow, I went a little overboard. What can I tell you? So just so you know, we do this every 3rd Thursday of the month. It's called Backyard Forestry Online. You get to do it in the comfort of your home with your hot tea or whatever else you might want. So save the date and join us every month if you'd like. We have a variety of topics, and we love sharing it with you, and we love kind of being with you. If you missed one, it's okay. We pop them up on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel. Feel free to go up there and check us out. Okay. Some other things, Rich, I don't know. Do you want to take over a little bit and talk about some of the?
It's okay. Well, the Forestry Association, New Jersey Forestry Association, is one of the sponsors of this event. We partner with Rutgers and the DEP on it. And we have walks in the woods going on twice a year, typically fall and spring. They take place on woodland properties to illustrate the positive effects of active management and how you can employ that on your own woodlot. They're very well attended and people really enjoy it. They don't want to leave when they end. So keep watching for those. We have some coming up actually in southern Jersey in the spring. That'll be a new territory for us, and should be some interesting areas.
Oh, wait a minute. What happened there?
That's okay. Yeah, you're good. Next slide.
I'm trying.
Give it a shot.
Fidgety.
That's okay. That's okay. Either one is fine.
There we go.
Okay, so this is my number one cause tonight, is folks coming to our annual meeting. It's March 16th, 2023, Rutgers University. We have phenomenal panels of PhD forest scientists, forest professionals, forest managers, who will be asked provocative questions, and hopefully they won't get into too much of a wrestling match between each other, but it should be fun to watch. And there'll be audience participation as well. It's a great meeting. We cover a really broad range of issues. There's a drawing for a chainsaw. There's all kinds of door prizes, and people have a great day. We provide breakfast and lunch. And so it's a great value. You just go to our website, click register. It's a little cheaper if you're a member. So you may want to join first. And other than that, Lori, next slide.
Okay. Did I mention that little QR code in the upper right-hand corner? If you're really motivated, you can just click on that right now. It'll take you right to registration. So, but it's on our website as well. So there you go, Rich.
Yeah. Okay. So there's just a little list of what we do. We put out a newsletter to our members. It's pretty comprehensive, covers a lot of things, everything ranging from equipment maintenance to legislative events and what we do on the legislative front, and speaking with legislators about pending legislation to make sure it does not adversely affect our forests. We, of course, maintain our website, which we're actually redoing at the moment, which should be great. Annual meeting I've already unloaded you on. Let's see, New Jersey Woodland Stewards Program. That's a once-a-year program to train people in woodland stewardship. It's a multi-day course. Takes place at the moment at Camp Linwood McDonald near Stokes Forest. And people who complete the course are asked to volunteer their time during the coming year. Backyard forestry in 90 minutes, Lori is covered. Landowner representation, I mentioned earlier that we watch very closely legislation. We also monitor stewardship and woodland management, taxation impacts. And I guess that's the list. Let's let everybody get to work.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, so we'd love to have you join if you're not a member. And again, you go to our website or you can scan that QR code. So,
and please attend our meeting.
And please attend our meeting. It's going to be great. I am so excited about this year's meeting. So, okay. All right. But I'm really excited about our presenter today. And I am so grateful and thankful that Brian agreed to do this. So it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Brian Swinney. He is the owner of Tick and Skeeter Deleter. Really cool history you have, because you actually, do you still own a landscape company, BRS Backyard Bug Busters?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you're not the average green expert either, and which is why you ended up doing what you're doing with this particular insect control product. So I love your philosophy. I love everything that you're doing. And I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to you so we can learn more about ticks. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and Brian, you can share yours.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Brian Swinney. And thank you, Lori, for the introduction. And you are seeing my screen now, right? You see the first slide, everybody?
Everything is perfect. Great, Brian.
Okay. And yeah, so thanks again, Lori and Rich, for having me. It's an honor to speak and do the webinar here for you guys. Everybody, welcome. I hope everybody had a good dinner and we're nice and rested and ready to talk about some ticks here tonight. And anybody, we can make this interactive. Raise your hand, put some questions in the chat. I'd love to make it a little more interactive, however we can. So I'll keep an eye on the chat for some questions. And tonight we're going to talk about ticks. We're going to talk about the facts, the life cycle, the diseases, the identification, the removal, prevention, and my favorite is the control. So this is me. I've been in the green industry for a while. As you can see, I'm the co-owner of Tick and Skeeter Deleter, which is a all-natural tick and mosquito control product. And we also have a business, BRS Backyard Bug Busters, which is a lawn care fertilization as well as tick and mosquito control service company. And before that, I did have a landscape business. So I've been in the industry for a while. And I love it. I live and breathe this stuff. So we're going to talk about ticks tonight. And I know this is not so as interactive, but usually I like to ask, is this a tick? Do I have any nods? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, we got action in the chat. Okay. That is a tick. Ticks have 8 legs. Okay. They are in the arachnid spider family. So they are more like spiders than they are like insects. And they have 2 body regions. Okay. Idiosema is the body region here, and the capitulum is the head part here. They are creepy crawlers, we like to call them. And ticks have a dorsal shield. These are some different types of ticks here, and they can be identified by their dorsal shield. So we have the black-legged deer tick, the American dog tick, and the Lone Star tick here. Now, they are the main ticks that you will see in our area, especially the black-legged tick is very prevalent in our area of New Jersey, which does carry Lyme disease. Ticks don't have wings. They do not fly. They are creepy crawlers. So that does make them easier to control if you are going to do some control, because they do not fly. They are crawling around. They are on the property. They are in the woods when you get there. So we're going to talk about some things that you can do to try to help minimize your exposure with ticks. Now, ticks do not have antennae. Their front legs may look like they have antenna, but they do not. Those are their front legs, and when they crawl up the vegetation of grass, of trees, of brush areas, they kind of hang their front legs out, waiting for you to just come brushing by, and they grab right onto you. And so they do not jump, they do not fly, they're just creepy crawlers. So the way this works with the questing behavior with ticks, like I kind of touched on already, is they like to climb up the vegetation. They wait for their host with their front legs extended. And you can see in these pictures here, that's exactly how all these images were caught. This is them in their natural habitat. They kind of crawl out to the very edge of tree limb branches, high grass. They like shade, and they like moist areas. They like overgrowth, unmaintained areas, or the edges of landscape. And that's where they have the opportunity to crawl up to the furthermost point of the small branches or edge of the grass, and they kind of hang out with their front legs, waiting for somebody to just brush by, or an animal, or whatever their host may be. So it could be a mouse, it could be a rabbit, it could be birds, it could be people, it could be dogs, it could be cats, it could be kids. So that's what they do for their behavior. Now, is this a tick? Everybody still paying attention? How does that look there? Yes, this is a adult female black-legged tick. I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, thanks for participating. Is this a tick? Any action there? No. This is not. This is a bed bug. Okay. How about this? What does this look like? Is this a tick? This is an engorged tick. So this is what they look like after they engorged with a blood meal. This is a black-legged tick. So identification, you have to really pay close attention to, depending on what stage that the ticks are in, if they have engorged with a blood meal. Now, when we talk about tick biology, that's going to help us with distribution behavior and the life cycle. Understanding tick biology will help us understand better the disease cycle and the risk, and also how to control ticks. And as you can see in this picture here, again, with its front legs extended, just waiting for a host to come by to latch onto. So here's a little map of the different types of ticks and the importance in the areas that they are found. So as you can see where we are up here in the Northeast, the black-legged tick, deer tick, is very prevalent in our area, which does carry Lyme disease. We also have the Lone Star tick in our area. And as you go further south, you have the longhorn tick down there in the southern region. They have the Gulf Coast tick. Now, over here, we have the brown dog tick and the American dog tick, which are very prevalent across the United States, and they are more found indoors on animals in shelters, dog areas on dogs. And then out west, they have the Rocky Mountain wood tick, which makes sense, and the western black-legged tick. Let's talk about New Jersey. Why don't we? Okay, here's the Lone Star tick. It is very prevalent in our area. This is the map where you can find the Lone Star tick. So you can see that New Jersey is a big concern with the Lone Star tick. Now, the Lone Star tick has very aggressive behavior, and it's very common to, when you brush up against any kind of vegetation, to acquire several hundred seed ticks. They're called larva ticks, which are the very small larva ticks. And that's how the Lone Star tick is found very commonly. If anybody's ever come across an infestation where they have found a bunch of ticks on them at once, it is most likely the Lone Star tick. And the Lone Star tick also carries the tick-associated meat allergy, which, if there's any meat eaters out there, I'm sure that you would really suffer if you were not able to eat meat anymore. I know that would kill me. I wouldn't want that. So we got to be careful with the Lone Star tick. Now, also very prevalent in New Jersey is the black-legged tick. And it's also very prevalent on the entire East Coast and the Midwest and in the South. So this is very widespread. The bite threat exists in the spring, summer, and fall. And the black-legged tick is most responsible for transmitting Lyme disease. Now, a few more risks depends on the type of tick that you have. You know, we talked about the American dog tick and the brown dog tick, which are usually found on dogs in indoor areas, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and some canine diseases that they do carry. And the Lone Star tick with the tick-associated meat allergy, and the black-legged tick, which the biggest thing is the Lyme disease, as well as a few other viruses that they do carry. So this is the typical life cycle of ticks, and this is really important for us to understand. Year one, they start out in the egg in the spring, they hatch into larvae, and they seek their first host. As larvae, they seek their first host, which is usually a small animal because they are small. They're crawling low. They're in the leaf litter on the ground, in brush piles, and they will seek their host on the chipmunks, rabbits, mice, birds, okay? And that will be their first summer season. As they molt over winter and molt into a nymph in year two, they will seek again in the spring. On year two, they will seek a larger host. Okay, so it could be mice and chipmunks again, or birds, but also we have here a fox and a raccoon, and you could also start to see them on dogs and cats as well. And so that's the spring of year two. And then as they molt into an adult in the fall, they will overwinter on a bigger animals like deer, people, fox, dogs, horses. And then they will start to lay their eggs. Coyotes, yes. Coyotes, wolves, any animal species that they can get a blood meal, they are going to seek as a host. Now, what to remember about the tick life cycles, like we just talked about, it's a 2-year life cycle. They seek 3 different hosts, and it's 4 life stages. Okay, so it's 2, 3, 4. It's a 2-year life cycle, 3 hosts, 4 life stages. So 2 years and 3 different hosts, 1, 2, 3, and 4 life stages, which would be the egg, the larva, the nymph, and the adult. So that's how that goes there with the life cycle. Now, you are not safe in the wintertime, like right now, especially with a mild winter like we've been having. Ticks are questing a host anywhere above 40 degrees. Now, you might say, well, it's been in the 30s and the ticks are not active. But if there's a hot spot where the sun is beating down on the forest floor and it's warming up that area, the ticks are active. If you're out hiking, they are very active, seeking a host. Okay, so let's talk about the tick habitat and what is tick risky. Now, ticks really like overgrowth areas, I like to say, so tall grasses or the forested habitat. So anywhere where they have a lot of vegetation to crawl up. They like to stay cool, so they like the shaded areas. So in these tall grass areas, it's nice and moist and shaded there for them. And then they will crawl up onto the top and to the edges to seek their host, as well as the heavily wooded areas like you see in this picture here. So they like to stay cool in the wooded areas, but they will kind of crawl out to the edge and up to the top because they're trying to find their host that may be coming by. Now, a little bit more interaction. Is this a tick risky habitat for this little guy here? You can see there's a lot of leaves in the background. Yep, we're getting some action. People agree this definitely is. Now, what about this? Is this a tick risky habitat? So this lady's hanging out in the grass. She's having a little picnic. Now it can be, but the chances are less than being in the woods. So the ticks, they can be out in the grass, but it's definitely less of a chance to find them out in the grass because part of trying to control ticks or minimize ticks would be to keep the grass cut short, keep things pruned back, allow sunlight in. So a tick could be in this area. It's possible, but it's more unlikely. Especially this might be being that it's a nice green, lush lawn. There's a chance that it might be fertilized, which means that there might be some insecticides applied here. So that will also make the chance of seeing ticks less in that area. Now, what do you think about this area? Nice hiking trail here. Is this a tick risky habitat? No. Okay. No. Yes. All right. Well, if you're walking on the center of the trail, there's less chance of picking up ticks, but the ticks definitely like the wooded area like you see here on the sides. They like how it's shady here. So there's plenty of moisture here for them to be happy. So they would be in this environment. They might be on the edges, crawling up the side of the branches, waiting to seek their host. 72% of ticks are collected from the trail edge. So like I said, they're going to be on the sides. They're going to be on the edges. They're waiting to seek their host. They're just waiting for us to come walking by. Okay, so now what about this area? Is residential area, nice landscaped property. The tick risk here is definitely high. You have a lot of overgrowth, the landscape areas, the shrubs, the trees, the bed areas around the house. And also in the landscape area, you do have more risk for ticks because people sometimes when they go out into the woods, like you saw on the last slide, they're a little bit more prepared for ticks. They might have their pants tucked into their socks. They might have their bug spray on. They're wearing long sleeves and long pants, and they're more prepared to see ticks and on the lookout. But when they're in their yard, they're not thinking about it. They might be playing in the yard with the dogs, with the kids. They might be doing some yard maintenance work. They're not thinking about the tick risk, and it is a high risk in these areas. So some of the risk factors in the residential landscape would be stone walls. Ticks love the stone walls because they can crawl into the cracks and crevices of the stone walls. They have plenty of moisture. They have plenty of hosts activity in the rock walls. That's where the mice and the chipmunks are hiding. So they're hanging out in there, nice and moist, dark, cool place where they like to hang out. And that's where they have plenty of host activity where they can jump on and go for a ride. Also, houses with the edge on the edge of the wooded line areas. That is definitely very high risk area because, like we talked about, ticks like to be on the edge of the woods. They like those areas. They have the wooded shaded area, but they also like to crawl onto the edge and wait to seek their host. Now, your risk is going to be higher with outdoor pets like dogs and cats because they're going to go running into those areas, the low-lying overgrowth areas, and pick up ticks. Also, if there's any yard debris laying around in yards like you see on this picture to the right, this is definitely a high-risk environment for ticks. You have a lot of rodents that are hiding here, so they have their host, they have their shaded areas. So one thing that we can do is to just keep the yard clear from yard debris. It looks like somebody has a question about insect shield clothing or permethrin. Yes, that's a good question. We're going to get into that. So the stone walls is definitely something that people don't always think about, but that's definitely an area. But it's not like we can, if we have stone walls in our yard, we're going to just take them down because we're worried about ticks. But there is other things that we can do. Pet owners increase the risk of tick encounters. So pet owners have a 49% higher risk of having a tick problem. And they are 1.8 times more likely to find a tick crawling on a family member because the cats and the dogs, they're running out in the yard. They're going to go into the areas. They're more likely to go into the areas that we might not. We're not going to always go running through the brush and on the edge of the woods, and they're lower to the ground. They're sniffing the ground, and they are more likely to pick up the ticks, which then they come inside, and next thing you know, we have a tick problem and mom's bugging out. And they are also, pet owners are 1.5 times more likely to find a tick attached. Now, talking about some control challenges, there's different consumer attitudes. There's talk about tick distribution, so you can treat your yard, but then what happens when the animals come running through my yard and the ticks fall off the animals? We also have a challenge with climate change. So you can treat the property, and Mother Nature we have no control over. So there's different variables there. A little bit more about control. Now, 95% prefer natural pesticides, willingness to control ticks. 61% are not willing to use an acaricide, which is a pesticide that treats the spider family like ticks. 72% would pay for rodent treatments. Now, rodent treatments is a good way to help reduce ticks, like you will see in this tick control system box up here on the top right. So what this is you would, when you first see this, you would think that this is going to kill the mice, but it's not. It's actually going to give the mice a meal, and when they run in there, they brush up against the permethrin and they get treated, and it kills the ticks that are on the host. So, or if you're doing rodent treatments because nobody wants mice in their house, then having the bait boxes to control mice, to keep the mice out of your house and the chipmunks, then you are also helping reduce the population of ticks because you are taking away the host. So that's something to think about. 63% would pay for chemical treatment. Now, with all those variables, the willingness to pay, so most do not want to pay more than $99 for treatment sprays or rodent treatment. So we have all these factors here. It's a lot to do, and the willingness to pay is about $99. So now 42% are not sure about the acaricide safety. 50% believe needs multiple applications, which is true. And for professional pest control, 68% of pest control operators apply more than 4 times a year. 67% target lawn areas. So there's some mixed things about targeting lawn areas. Like we talked about, ticks can be in the lawn area, but they are less likely. So most pest control operators don't treat the lawn areas. They do like to do a perimeter spray, which is what is recommended, but these stats are telling us that 67% are treating the target lawn areas. It's a good safety to just treat everything. So, and like I talked about, if you have a lawn that is getting maintained with fertilization treatments, chances are part of that program is insecticides, which is also going to reduce ticks in the lawn area. Occupational risk. So people that are out in the yard are 3 to 10 times more risk of tick-borne disease for the outdoor professionals because they're out here, they're treating the yards, and they're in the danger zone. All right, so here we're moving on to the permethrin-treated clothing. This is a great thing if you are going out into the woods. We talked a little bit about control. Now, control, you can do the control in your yard area. You can control the hosts. You can spray your yards with different types of insecticides, whether it's chemical or natural. But if you're going out into the woods, you have a less opportunity or less ability to control those areas. So now we have to think about kind of protecting ourselves from the ticks when we go out into the woods. So there are these permethrin treated clothing. It's a synthetic chemical that acts natural. It's made from natural extracts from the chrysanthemum flower, and it's in an insecticide family. They are 93% reduction in tick bites with permethrin-treated clothing, and a 3 times reduction in tick attachment. So this stuff works. There's been a lot of studies, a lot of tests. I've seen videos on it where the ticks basically just fall right off the permethrin-treated clothing. It's still something you want to keep an eye on, but it definitely helps when you're going out into the woods, so it's something to consider. Now, it is more expensive to purchase the clothing. You can see here, you're ranging to in the $60, $80, $100 range for a pair of pants or a shirt for permethrin-treated clothing. But you can also send your clothes out to be treated. If you want to do that, you can send out your existing clothes to be treated. They are good for 70 washes. Or you can buy the chemical and treat the clothes yourself. Read the label carefully. And you want to spray your clothes in a well-ventilated area and let them dry. And you want to keep this away from cats. It is harmful to cats until the product dries, and then the label says that it is safe. Now, self-treated fabrics are good for up to 5 washes. And the permethrin does kill the ticks that it comes in contact with. So when the ticks do get on this clothing, you can see they just fall off. I've seen videos, you can find them online, and Another secret weapon when you're going out into the woods hiking would be a lint roller. This works really well to remove ticks from your clothing. Do not use on pets. You're not going to want to use this in your hair, but it does work very well every once in a while to carry this with you if you're hiking. When you come out of the woods or a couple times throughout the day, just go over your clothes with this, and it's going to pull the ticks right off. It works very well. Tick repellents, if you're going in the woods, there's different types of tick repellents. You have your DEET, you have your natural sprays, which are consisting of essential oils. I like that. Duct tape works also. That's good. Okay. It's good to hear the feedback from the crowd. And so with the tick repellents, there's a lot of different brands, a lot of different talks about the percentages of DEET and if it's safe or not. I like to treat your yard, not your kids. This is a picture of a 100% all-natural 25B exempt pesticide being applied to the outdoor property. And you can see in the picture here that the kids don't look very happy when you're trying to spray them with DEET. So it's probably not the best idea unless they have a natural option tick repellent here. It could be, but if you're not going in the woods and you're just concerned about your yard, I like to say treat your yard, not your kids, especially if you're going to use a natural 25B exempt pesticide. This is a essential oil based product being applied here. Works very well, and it controls ticks on contact and also acts as a repellent. So a lot of people think that the natural essential oil products don't control, they only repel, but they actually do control on contact. So whatever ticks are on the property, when you apply these products, the essential oil actually suffocates the exoskeleton of the insects and it kills them. And then when the product dries, it does repel. So it's a 2-for-1. Now, something else to keep in mind when you're coming inside from being outdoors is to put your clothes in the dryer. So now the heat will kill the ticks. So they say to do this first before washing. So put your clothes in the dryer for 10 minutes, let them get really warm, and then you can wash your clothes, and that will keep you from bringing the ticks inside. So now when it comes to tick checks, you want to check, these are some areas that you want to focus on. And it does look like we have some questions here. Is this spray harmful to other insects? So essential oils do not harm beneficial insects like bees and butterflies and pollinators. Another thing you want to consider when you are doing any type of application like that, even though the essential oils do not harm the beneficial insects, you never want to treat anything that's blooming. So just a safeguard to not treat any blooming plants, any flowers, anything that's in bloom. It's common practice for a pest control operator to not treat any plants that are in bloom, especially when they're using a chemical pesticide. So another thing to think about is maybe the different tones of skin. You know, it's easier to see the ticks on the lighter color skin than it is the darker color. So you really want to be careful, as well as freckles will, with the small larva ticks, sometimes they are that small that it's hard to see them. You want to check these areas here behind the ears, you know, the armpits, the cracks and crevices between the legs, behind the knees. These are areas that you want to check. Now, what do you do when you find a tick? Here's a picture of an engorged tick. Let's talk about how to remove the ticks. So there's a lot of different ways people talk about how to remove ticks, but there's only one correct way, and that is with a pair of tweezers. And you want to make sure that you grab the tick down low, right up against the skin by the head. Because I know we probably all just ate dinner, and if I were to come up from behind you and squeeze your stomach area, who knows what might happen. But with a tick, if you squeeze their body, they are likely to dislodge from you into and put that whatever disease that they may have be carrying, the chances are higher for them transmitting that disease. So if they're not too far engorged, you want to really get down and grab the head, because the way a tick goes into the skin, it's like a fish hook. It's like a barb. So they can burrow their way into the skin, but when you try to pull them out, they are hooked and they're hard to get out. So you don't want to pull the back of their body and then the head gets left in there. So you really want to make sure that you try to squeeze down really low to remove them, and then just simply wash the area. So the no squeeze zone, like we were talking about, you can see the picture here where the head is inside, but in this picture here kind of shows the barbs where they kind of latch in. So like I said, it's kind of like a fish hook. So you kind of want to pull them the opposite direction to dislodge the tick. Use forceps or tweezers and grasp the chin, kind of like we were just saying. Here's a picture of it. So in the previous slide, it looks pretty easy. It looks really big, but in real life, this is what it looks like. So it's not always the easiest thing to do, but you want to just keep that in mind. So like we talked about, that's the only correct way. Do not use nail polish remover, matches, lighter, gasoline, petroleum jelly, ice cubes, or any other way. The best way is to simply use tweezers or a tick removal tool. Now, I know they sell these online. Penn State offers this kit that you see here. You can buy it online, and it comes with the tweezers and the magnifying glass and a little checklist on how to check and how to remove, as well as a bag to store the ticks, and then you can send them out for pathogen testing. And these are available online through the Rutgers extension at this link here, or simply on Amazon. I know they sell them. So, and they work very well. So just about a little review about the tick control and the landscape. You can definitely help reduce the tick population in the landscape by changing the landscape. So keeping things pruned back, and by treating the yard, or just keeping the grass cut short, the shrubs trimmed and pruned nicely. So just keeping a well manicured yard is going to really help with the tick population in the landscape yard. The other thing is to target the host. Targeting the host works very well. And because the ticks are on the host, if you remove the host, you're removing the ticks. Biological control, chickens do eat ticks, but they're not going to eat all the ticks. And then we talked about the chemical control, whether it is a natural option or a pesticide. You have those different options, but either way, you're never going to get them all. So some of the efficacy data here: caricides are most effective. Next is host targeted control. Next comes landscape management. Least effective is the biological control. The caricide control directly kills host-seeking questing ticks by broadcasting synthetic or plant-based caricides. Now you can see the way this guy is geared up. He's probably applying a chemical synthetic pesticide here. This is a backpack mist blower here that is misting the landscape to apply the pesticide and control ticks on contact, and also leaving that residual kill factor on the plant to control ticks long term. Now, some of the pros and cons to using a synthetic acaricide or pyrethroids: they are highly effective. There are fewer sprays required, but they are toxic. They're toxic to people, to the environment, and to other animals. So that's why we like to recommend using 100% all natural insect control, like the one you see being applied here. This is actually happens to be tick and skeeter deleter, which is an all natural essential oil blend. It contains cedar, citronella, lemongrass, rosemary, and peppermint. It smells really good. Works very well for controlling and repelling ticks in the outdoor environment. And if anybody has any questions, you can let me know on that. But I recommend, this is a 25B exempt pesticide. So this follows all the regulations and meets all the requirements to be an exempt pesticide. So there's only certain ingredients that you have to use in order to meet those requirements. Now, whenever you are choosing a natural product, there are some things that you want to keep in mind. You want to make sure the essential oils that you're using, like right here, you can see the ingredients list. So you want to take a look at the different oils that are being used. The cedar, the lemongrass, the rosemary, the citronella, and the peppermint is a really good blend. It gives you a broad spectrum of different oils, which works very well. And you also want to look at the percentage of active ingredient is very important. Some things you can buy at Home Depot, very inexpensive. Take a look at the label. At this label here on the back, it's usually a lot more smaller print than this, but I blew it up so we can see. You usually will see something that says 0.5% active ingredient. So basically you're buying water. But with a product like this is a very high percent of active ingredient, so you get very good control while meeting the 25B exempt requirements. So this is meeting all requirements to be a 25B exempt pesticide, consisting of the all natural essential oils, which, like I said, controls insects on contact and also acts as a repellent. So you may be concerned about controlling ticks in your yard, but while you're at it, you're also going to be controlling mosquitoes, which I'm sure is definitely a bonus for everybody.
Hey, Brian, can you explain what 25B exempt pesticide means?
Sorry, go ahead. Say that again?
Can you explain what 25B pesticide exemption means?
Okay, yeah, sure. So a 25B exempt pesticide means that it doesn't have to register with EPA. So it is not a chemical pesticide. So they came up with requirements to have an exempt, it's a natural option pesticide. So being that it is controlling insects, it's still called a pesticide. But as a 25B exempt pesticide, it's a natural option. Some people can say, use the word organic. We don't like to use the word organic because there's a lot of regulation requirement in order to use that word. It's kind of a buzzword, but it is all natural ingredients. And they do have a list of ingredients which you are allowed to use. So in order to meet those requirements, you have to have only those that are on the list, which are all natural essential oils. You can't have anything else. So there's a list for active ingredients as well as the inert ingredients. So it is your safer option instead of using a permethrin pesticide. How do the oils kill the ticks? So the oils, when they are applied and they get on the ticks, it suffocates the exoskeleton. and it kills them that way. So that is how it works. It also does repel them. They do not like the smell. So it's now, being that it is a 25B exempt pesticide, the way it controls, like I just said, it kills on contact. Once the product dries, you're going to get a repellency factor. However, the way regular pesticides work is they're going to leave a residual that will continue to kill ticks or insects, where you don't get that with the oils. So whatever, at the time of application, whatever insects are on the property are going to be controlled, and then you're going to get a repellency, but you're not going to get the residual kill like you would from a chemical pesticide. But that also, when you have the residual kill, then you have the concern of the toxicity to people, pets, the environment, as well as the beneficial insects. Any other questions, definitely let me know. Jump in. There's different ways to apply. These are the professional ways to apply them to your property, whether it's a high pressure spray. So this here is a hose with a high pressure spray. This hose is coming from a tank mounted on a truck with a high pressure pump. Or this is a mist blower here that you simply put the products in. This is a 4-gallon tank, and you mix the product with water in this tank, and you mist it into the landscape areas. Works very well. It's affordable, and one person can, if you have a big property, instead of paying for the service, you could potentially purchase yourself a mist blower and treat your own property this way, and it's very effective. We talked a little bit about the host targeted control, and removing the rodents is going to remove the ticks. So, and I know nobody likes to have mice in their house or on their property. So setting up the bait boxes around the area and getting rid of the mice is going to reduce the tick population. So that definitely helps. Does this product work on no-see-ums, I think is the question. Yes. So it is labeled for ticks and mosquitoes, but it is going to control a broad spectrum of other insects. So fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, flies, gnats, ants, spiders. It's going to control on contact and also act as a repellent. So when you're treating your property, you can also treat the foundation and the side of the house. That's going to keep the creepy crawlers out of the house. It's going to repel them. It's going to control whatever it comes in contact with, and it works very well. And it's a good alternative option instead of using pesticides for perimeter pest control on your house. And another option is tick tubes. So you can buy these little tubes here that you see. They look like little empty rolls of toilet paper, and they are stuffed with cotton that is treated with permethrin. And the way it works is the mice like to go into these small areas, into these little tunnels, and they go in there, they grab the permethrin treated cotton, they bring it back to their nest, and it controls the ticks in their entire nest and whatever it comes in contact with. So this is a self-application, and it's easy to get. It's compatible with other animals, but it's good on smaller areas. So smaller yards, this tends to work pretty well, but it may not reach all your hosts. So yeah, it's going to reach the mice, but what about your larger hosts? Other hosts being animals. So rabbits, chipmunks, dogs, cats, deer, the list goes on, all those animals. This is not going to work. So this is just going to be getting the ticks that will be traveling on the mice and whatever mice come through. So, but this study shows that the tick tubes work very well, and they ended up having no ticks on the mice after this period of time. So like I said, it's not going to do all hosts, but for mice, it works very well. We talked a little bit about the rodent bait boxes. So here it is again. The rodents come into this box for a meal, and when they go in, they end up getting treated with permethrin. So it's non-lethal. Some people that are might be concerned that they do not want to kill the host, but they do want to kill the ticks. This is a good way to do it. It's very targeted, but it can be expensive, and it provides a food resource for wildlife. So now you're attracting more rodents by feeding them. They're going to go where the food is. So now you're actually bringing them into the property. The tick tube replacement rate is every 4 to 6 weeks in the spring. This is a little study here. You're looking at, the mean is about every 40 days, they're saying that you need to replace them. A little less in the summertime when it's more active. And the bait box efficacy here is a 50% reduction in questing black-legged ticks and a 68% reduction of ticks on your host. So that's a little bit of data here on your bait box. Now, a lot of people say, what about chickens, right? There's a kind of a trend lately. Everybody's got chickens, which is great. If you want to have chickens to have your own eggs, that's a great reason. But I wouldn't recommend saying, oh, well, we're going to get chickens to eat the ticks, because the chickens will eat the ticks if they encounter them, but they're not going to eat all the ticks on your yard. That's not the only thing that they eat. It's just that when they come across them, they will eat the ticks. So, but you also want to remember that when you have chickens, you have feed, and then the feed is going to draw in hosts like mice and chipmunks and rats and rabbits and whatever else, as well as larger animals that want to eat the chickens. And they're all carrying ticks. So it's just something to think about if you are considering getting chickens just to eat the ticks. Are the wild turkeys bringing ticks to my lawn? Yes. Will these work on the longhorn ticks? So is that the tick tubes that you're talking about? Or so the bait boxes, I'm pretty sure we're only going against the black-legged ticks because they're the ones on the small rodents. So knowing the type of tick is important with the type of control. Landscape management. Modifying the environment to reduce a suitable habitat for ticks or tick hosts. So like we talked about a little bit before, the more maintained that you can keep your property, the better off you're going to be with having a problem with ticks or tick hosts like rodents. So you want to keep everything manicured, pruned, trimmed, allowing sunlight to enter, keeping the shrubs pruned up off the ground, reducing the areas for them to hide, allowing the sunlight in, reducing the moisture, keeping the grass cut, keeping everything trimmed back is going to help reduce the tick population on your immediate landscape. So by doing that, you are reducing host areas. So if you have a nice, clean, manicured yard, it's less areas for the hosts to hide out. The chipmunks, the mice, the rabbits, any other rodents, they like to hide behind things, underneath things. So if you have debris, if you have leaf litter, if you have a lot of shrubs, overgrowth, they're going to be hiding in those areas. But you will be reducing humidity by keeping the yard well maintained, which is going to kill existing ticks because they do like a nice moist area. Now, not all ticks are susceptible to hosts targeted with landscape modification or humidity changes. So different ticks like different environments. So this is going to help reduce tick populations, but it is not 100%. So now there is a vector-borne disease training and evaluation center that's being formed through the Penn State University. And I heard a little bit about this. They are a focus group developing an optimized target education for vector-borne disease prevention and control. It's an advisory board, and they want to direct needs and assessments and prioritize their target audiences. So they want to hear from us. They want to hear from pest control operators. They want to hear from veterinarians and occupational health and safety to get more data so that they can figure out how to help prevent more vector-borne disease. Now, when it comes to Lyme disease, let's talk about New Jersey. Well, look where New Jersey is, right in the center of this infected area of Lyme disease cases. And the Lyme disease cases continue to rise year over year. This is a little bit of an older chart, but you can see the trend here that just keeps climbing and climbing. So over here in the Northeast, we are very concentrated with Lyme disease. And the main vector, like we talked about, is the black-legged tick. So it's something to be concerned about. Now, why? I've lived in this here in New Jersey or wherever, the Northeast, my whole life. Used to play in the woods all the time when I was young and never got a tick on me. Now it seems like I go outside and immediately I'm covered. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of different talk about this, and to really sum it up is we really don't know. But there's a lot of things that we can talk about. Acorn masts. Are the acorns getting bigger? Is the weather changing for the long term? The habitat fragmentation, changing predator and prey relationships, changing the climate. So a lot of things are happening that can be making these changes that are causing to have more ticks. Well, having more acorns, which is due to climate. So depending on climate change and what is happening, whether it's more rain or whether the trees are under more stress to produce more acorns. Well, when it produces more acorns, it's trying to reproduce itself because it is under some type of stress or weather variable. Then now you have more acorns and you have more food available for mice. And if you have more mice, you have more hosts for ticks to feed on. So it's a chain reaction. So weather is a short-term impact. So mild winters allow for higher survival of host species and ticks. So not only are the ticks able to be more prevalent with mild winters, but also the hosts. And I'm sure everybody will agree that the way our winters have been, they're definitely more mild, which is allowing for more tick survival and host survival. Now, dry summers can decrease the tick questing activity and change host activity patterns. But the way we've been having some really wet summers as well as warm winters. So I can see that this is going to continue to be a problem. Now, there's different habitat fragmentation talks, the dilution theory, increased habitat for important hosts. So not all species are good reservoir hosts. More host species dilute the pathogens. So if we look at the next slide here, the dilution theory. So this is a diluted, well-rounded ecosystem where you have different animals. Well, then undiluted, like we seem to have more of the smaller rodent animals. Now, why is that? Well, increased habitat. The deer and the rodents prefer the edge habitat. Well, the more we build, the more we create different areas, they actually like having that because they like the edges, like we talked about. They like to be on the edge. They're not as much in the middle of the woods. Yes, they are in the middle of the woods, but they do like the edges. So the more edges that we create, the more you're going to have. The other thing is the wolves, the coyotes, the foxes, and the mice. Now, with the wolves becoming more extinct, that increases the mice population. Less cougars and mountain lions, that's going to increase the mice population as well as the deer population. So less predators for the mice and the deer, more host for the ticks, more tick problem. Now, someone's asking, why is Massachusetts white? Now, in that map, you can see it's gray. And on here, it says a high incidence state. So I believe the reason they did that is that it's so concentrated in Massachusetts that it would be completely blue. But looking at the key here, it's kind of in gray, which is a high incidence state. So in generally speaking, you can tell the entire Northeast and the upper Midwest are your areas for Lyme disease. You start to get out of our area, and there's less and less Lyme disease. Climate change. We have a 300% increase in vector-borne disease cases in the U.S. That could be due to climate change. 20% projected increase in Lyme disease cases. So we have all these variables happening with the environment, with the change in animals, with the change in the environment, with the landscape. As we build more, we create more edge of the wooded areas. So these are all factors, but what can I do? So understanding the tick risk and understanding the consumer behavior is going to help with all these factors that we talk about. Understanding best practices for personal protection. We talked about the permethrin treated clothing. We talked about the bug spray. We talked about some things that you can do in your immediate yard area. Somebody's asking about the barberries. Yes, barberries are definitely attract ticks. So ticks like any kind of pricker bush. They like the prickers on the barberry because of the fine needle, the very fine branches. Ticks being so small, they're able to crawl up on those little fine prickery areas, and they're able to hang on to a small branch and have their front legs extended so that they can seek their host. It also helps them when somebody that might get caught up in the prickers might be there for a longer period of time than just brushing up against regular vegetation, which gives them more chance to latch on. So is there any other questions that we may have? I know that's the end of my slide. If there's anything more you want to talk about, or if you want me to go back into a couple slides.
Brian, there are some questions in the Q&A too. Some of which you've answered. I kept them in there in case you were looking. I didn't want to just delete them.
Okay.
So we already talked about what time of year they're active. Pretty much we have to watch for them all times of year. So that's pretty much answered. the pictures of the different stages of a tick, what and like the sizing of a mature tick. I know back to the life cycle slide that you had. What would you say
Uh-huh.
is what's the difference between the different stages? Like if you're seeing if you're getting a small tick on you, are you saying that's a nymph for sure?
Yes. Yep. So a lot of people just automatically think that, oh, that's a deer tick. Well, it could just be that it's a nymph stage tick.
Okay, so really the determining factor is the view of the uh what the tick looks like.
Yes. Yep. So let's see. Let's pull up that slide. Here we go. Yeah, so there's year one. It starts out as the egg. It molts into the larva, and that's when it seeks a smaller host. But that doesn't mean that it can't also end up on a human right away. So, like we said, the Lone Star tick is when you have many, many, many small larva ticks that can latch on all at one time. And with this disease cycle, so they latch on to a smaller host that gets them through the summer. You can see here of the first year, and then they overwinter and molt into the nymph. They seek their second host, year two, which can be any larger animals, tends to be, but it could also be any animal. And that would be on the spring, summer of year two. Then they're going to molt into an adult and they're going to overwinter on a large animal. That's how the ticks are able to overwinter, because they overwinter on the animals, and that's how they stay dry. They got their blood meal, they stay warm, and that keeps them happy through the winter.
Got it. Okay, Rich, you see any other questions in either the chat or the Q&A that we should address?
Okay. I saw a couple of references to horses, and I know I've always been concerned about that with my horses, and I've had some horses actually get very quickly feverish with a tick bite. So I don't know if you've had any experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, all animals are susceptible, so it's important to think about all these different factors. Where if you're going to have horses around, having chickens might help. Treating the area will definitely help. I know with horses, it's also a problem with the flies. I know I have some friends that have horse farms, and they have a problem with the flies. They love to use our product to treat the area for the ticks as well as for the flies, because it's a real problem. Yeah. So, and it works very well, and they like the product because it's all natural and it's not harmful to the animals.
There was a question about the protocols following a tick bite and I assume removal of the tick. Other than just washing, anything else to watch for? Bullseyes, things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, anytime a tick is removed, it's a good idea to have it tested. So if you remove a tick, don't just throw it away, especially if it's engorged. You can send it out for pathogen testing. That way you'll know. Because if you go to the doctor, it's been said, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it's been said that a lot of doctors, they don't want to automatically treat with antibiotics unless they know that the tick was infected with Lyme's disease. So
I've noticed that they typically ask how long was the tick attached. Seems to be a critical question.
Yeah, so the tick has to be attached for quite a while, 24 to 36 hours, in order for it to transmit disease. So the quicker
unless you do the stupid thing with the tweezers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So just following all these protocols with the lint roller or the duct tape, like it was talked about, it helps. It helps a lot. So following these protocols, maybe the permethrin treated clothing, bug spray, treating your yard, treating the areas where your animals may be, controlling the rodents, keeping the yard clean. All these things are going to help.
I'm just going
Amy
through my
Green.
notes.
Yeah. Amy's on. Hi, Amy. She was wondering if planting native mint wildflowers would help to repel ticks.
The mint is going to repel. They don't like the mint. So that'll help wherever those plants are. They might not like to be crawling up on those plants, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be in the yard elsewhere where those, if those plants are not exactly in that right spot, the ticks can still be in the yard.
What % DEET do you recommend in bug spray to look for on the label?
Well, there's a lot of different talks about the DEET. I'm a fan of the natural option. There's a lot of different natural option sprays. Our product being the 100% all natural, 25B exempt pesticide, it's labeled for the yard, so it's not labeled to spray on people.
Right.
But we like to when our guys apply it, they don't mind getting it on themselves, because then they know that they're protected from ticks while they're out in the yard spraying, because they know that their risk is higher being out in the yard where the ticks are. So, but it just it depends. There's a lot of different talks about the DEET. I like the natural option though.
No, I was thinking more for the person who's doing the work or doing, forestry work, things of that nature, where you can't effectively treat those areas.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So for that, you want to take precaution with long sleeves, pants tucked in, permethrin treated clothing, bug sprays, and checking yourself after, the lint roller, all those things.
Yeah, that lint roller is a brilliant idea. I don't know why I never thought of that. That's brilliant.
It is good.
Yeah.
Somebody said duct tape. That's a good idea too.
Definitely.
The lint
Catherine,
roller might be more convenient.
yeah, for sure. It just rolls right off. That's really cool. I just hope I wouldn't get as many ticks on your picture of the lint roller. Ugh, there's a lot of ticks. Catherine was asking where you send a tick for testing. And I know the slide you had with that kit was from Penn State, right? And then somebody said, or you said, Brian, that you can get the tick removal kit on Amazon. Does that come with a place to go and send it out for testing?
They do have them on Amazon, but I think getting it from Penn State is probably better, because then they have the envelopes and the bags to send them to Penn State for testing. I know and that's Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Rutgers will also do the testing.
Okay, yeah, Sharon put in the chat that Rutgers has a tick program, and then there's a website. It's basically ticks.rutgers.edu. So that might be a place for people to look at too.
Yep.
So that's good. Okay, what else do we see? Question.
I saw a question that I don't know whether you actually answered it. You probably did already, but somebody asked, is a deer tick the same as a black-legged tick?
Yes. And those are the ones that carry Lyme disease in New Jersey. So very prevalent.
That's our most predominant tick here in New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The black-legged tick and the Lone Star tick.
And the meat allergy is mostly Lone Star?
Yes. Yep.
But Lone Star does not provide Lyme disease, right? When you had that list, Lone Star ticks don't transmit Lyme disease.
Lyme disease, the black-legged tick is the one responsible for Lyme disease.
Okay.
Yep.
Yay.
Alrighty. I think that was the list of questions I had. I'm just going to give a quick scan to the chat.
Yeah, it was good to get the feedback from people.
Yes, I told you we're a very interactive audience, right? Which is great. I think it's great that we have the questions and the interaction. We're not in person, but at least we can still communicate in certain ways. So it's really good.
I appreciate you asking me to speak. I'm honored, and it was nice to get on and talk about my favorite topic.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Rich, you see anything else? or?
No, I don't. I'm just giving a quick scan right down to the bottom. What about
Okay.
tick collars for dogs? Just came up.
Yeah, so you have all those options. Somebody said something about treating their pets. There's mixed feelings about that. It's if you're going to treat your pets, that's definitely gonna keep them from getting ticks. But it's just the concern about the chemicals. And some people are asking for my contact info. So I'm going to put that in the chat here now so that you have it. I'll put my my email and my phone number in there. So if anybody has further questions, I'll put my website on there.
And while you're doing that, I think you answered this, but your products or products such as yours, it doesn't have to be just applied by an applicator. You can purchase that stuff and apply it yourself.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that, because that was a question in the chat. I just want to make sure that I know you said it, but I want to make sure that that was
yeah. So
perfect.
The state of New Jersey is the only state where you do not need a license to apply a 25B product, even as a commercial applicator. So something to think about. I know there's a lot of concern when people buy pesticides. Oh, do I need a license? But even if you're applying it commercially for hire, if you're using a 25B product in the state of New Jersey, you do not need a license.
Okay, that's the difference for sure. And you said we're the only state that doesn't require a license for 25B?
Yep.
Wow.
As far as I
Shocking.
know, in the area.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, all the other states, even though it's a 25B exempt pesticide, they acknowledge it as an exempt pesticide, but they still want to, commercial applicators to carry the license, the
Okay.
required category.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Well,
Okay.
fantastic information. Like this was great. Really, really appreciate you coming on and giving us such great information. Look forward to talking to you again. I look forward to seeing all of our attendees next month, same date, same place. And we'll be announcing that webinar shortly. And again, I hope you all have a great night and look forward to getting out there in the woods safely come spring, right?
Thank you so much.
And we're going to see you at the annual meeting in March.
Correct. March 16th.
March 16th. Go to our website for information. So thanks again, Brian. Good night, everybody. And we'll see you again soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.